Hi, this is Rebel Rod with one more Rodcast, and it's one that's something that needs to be taken very serious. I was out at the Emmons Church Camp back in 2019, and I was approached about participating in a racially profiling program that had to do with uh, setting up blacks. In other words, going out recruiting drug sales and trying to get blacks to complete the drug sales so that they could take blacks and put them in jail. And it came from a guy associated with Butler County and Richard Jones. I declined. It wasn't long after that until my life started to fall apart. And a lot of it had to do with the intimidation and the mental anguish that I suffered. Like when I seen a gathering up on Emmons Road at a person's house that I was visiting, where they erected a cross with a blonde-headed female on the cross who looked a lot like Nancy Smith or Ashley Ronstein, and she was limp, like she had been asleep or something. And they were beating drums. One of the drums said Alabama A&M on the side, and they were chanting, and they were doing a lot of the stuff that you would associate with the Ku Klux Klan, which is obviously a racial organization who would definitely be behind proving their white superiority and caging blacks, especially youth, for drug activity. The problem that I had with it was they have drug problems right in their own area because the yard adjacent to the place where they were having their get together or their ceremony was a heavy drug trafficking area. There's a lot of drugs that have come out of there, and I'm sure that there's plenty of witnesses for that. But they wanted you to drive 30 or 40 miles to go find black drug dealers. They began to threaten me. I was even assaulted by the mayor's nephew, which I've attached some of the threats made over the internet to me and my family with it. And also uh, had to get to a point to where I had to do something I really wasn't interested in doing at this point in time, which is talking about some of my political aspirations as the descendant of the Donaldsons and President Andrew Jackson of Tennessee. Uh, I felt like it was one of the things that I needed to bring up so that I could get some valid points across. And I sent messages out ad nauseum to the politicians in the state of Ohio, like David Yost, the Attorney General, like Scott Lips over in Franklin, like Steve Wilson right here in the 7th District, Greg Landsman right here in the 11th District of Congress, John Boehner and John Case out of the 8th District over in the Claremont areas, Preble counties, Hamilton counties. I've sent it out to Clint Blackwell. I've sent it out to all politicians I can think of. And I've also sent it out to the NAACP. I've sent it out to Benny Thompson down in Mississippi. I've sent it out to just about every civil rights organization I know. And that's how powerful Donald Trump's Republican Party is right now. They are controlling who goes to jail by color. They're ignoring your town where white kids are dying left and right from overdoses, from prescription pills. And they're not addressing the doctors who are overlooking failed drug test after failed drug test and allowing these white kids enough leniency to continue what they're doing as long as they participate in what the federal government termed a circle of friends, which is an intelligence gathering campaign held by the Drug Task Force. Around here, our field general or our field commander is Robbie Aerosmith. And I know Robbie. I've talked to him quite a few times. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I feel like his hands are tied because of the association in our town with a white supremacist organization, a biker gang called the Iron Horsemen. Our mayor is a national chapter member of the Iron Horsemen. Either that or his brother is. Either way, they're heavily associated. Uh, and it goes into overlooking the local drug dealers here in town. They go through, they tell you that they'll, kill you if you tell on them. And I've told on them ad nauseum to all the politicians. If you go through and look at the history, you'll see a lot of things like police reports where raids were conducted, where young women 20 years old admitted to being used in what I would consider to be sexual sense, and their payment for that would be drugs. Nothing came out of it. It's disgusting when you look at it. Some of the threats that are made, some of the actions that take place, the amount of overlooks that people get for things like drinking and driving. And it's time for a town to take a stand. You go through the media, which is the last line of defense in America, and you try to get politicians to listen to the mass journalists out there who try to do the right things for the communities, for the state, and for the United States of America. You put it out there. You hope that somebody will take the time to become invested, to investigate, to verify the facts, and then to report the truth to the American people. When I grew up, there was a whole lot of people out there in the news. Dan Rather comes to mind as one of my favorites. Al Shodikati from Cincinnati was one of my favorites. Ted Koppel is one of my favorites. But this story here, since it's an Ohio story, should come from Bill Hammer. It really should. And it should touch on the fact that a descendant of the South, the Southern General, the President, Old Hickory, lies in the same cemetery where some allegations have been made by me, who was a supervisor of that cemetery for 3 years, from 2000 to 2003, about a full disclosure of a murder that took place in the mid-60s to mid-70s. I've given all the information about this man that I can give, including the locations that are most likely where he's buried, and sent it out in hopes that they could find his Ohio family out there somewhere, probably around the Columbus area, somewhere between Dayton and Columbus is the way I took it, to give them closure in a very disgusting act that happened by a group of individuals here in Waynesville, Ohio, when they took him over to the cemetery and buried him. It ties a family together with some racial injustices, and not the least of which is the lack of respect and the lack of putting up a memorial for a black mayor here in a white town who ran as a Democrat amongst Republicans, who was a very good mentor and a very good friend to me. And with slander and with inaccurate statements, tried to ruin his reputation as they tried to maneuver this Iron Horseman, white supremacist mayor into office. I ask that you share this message. I ask that we find some kind of resolution to it, because I don't want my town to wake up one day and to realize that the descendant of a president and a legacy in Washington, D.C., that came from Tennessee, told them the truth the whole time, and they wouldn't listen because they were lied to, and they never took the time to listen, something that I was taught to do because of my brother, Billy Ham, who had a speech impediment. He went to Waynesville schools. He was a superstar human being, and the thing that he taught me the most was how to persevere. And that's what he did in his life.